The first thing you need to know about the printer is you'll want to keep it in an environment where you can control the humidity. Ideally between 30 and 40% is what you're aiming at, but we do have customers who can't get it below 50 down in Florida. So more than the range of humidity, it's the stability that's really important. If your humidity fluctuates up or down, you'll experience color shifts. So you'll have images printing one way, say Tuesday, and then you come back in Wednesday morning and they could be printing differently. So always maintain control of your humidity. Again, I'd say ideally between 30 and 40, with 35 being the optimal. But that's another, we'll call it a lever to pull, is the humidity. Here we're in Colorado, we operate at 25. It's just more practical. It's a bit drier here, so we don't have to run the humidifier or dehumidifier all the time. So 25 gives us really good results, but the range of humidity will also affect the saturation of your colors. So you can run at a lower humidity, which I believe makes the colors more saturated, and then the higher humidity makes them less saturated. So the second thing about the printer is you can never trust what the menu is telling you as far as the humidity, or not the humidity, but the toner levels. So your power button's right down there. Takes a few minutes to kick on and go through its cycle. And you see here where it says the black, cyan, magenta, and yellow values. Well, eventually those are going to turn into question marks, or they'll be really low, and this will flash yellow.
Which means you're getting the same with the low toner?
Correct. There's low toner? Correct.
That's right.
Yeah, we could only put about 100 grams of toner in the cylinders at a time, give or take. You can go up to 200, but the ceramic toner is much more dense than the organic toner. So we only put that small amount in so that it doesn't prematurely wear the motors out in the printer that auger the toner through the machine. So no matter what this menu says or what your computer may say about the toner levels, that's something you have to check manually.
Look at the bottles.
Correct, yeah. And again, this will start to flash yellow and you'll get question marks, but it's all normal. So, to check the levels, just lift up on the top here. Now this printer is equipped with our white toner, so that's why I don't see any color in there, but they will be the corresponding colors, yellow, cyan, magenta, and black. And you just grab one of the cylinders there, slide it right out, and then you'll want to point the black cap up towards the ceiling, and give the cylinder a good knock so all the toner settles at the bottom. And you'll see there, this is probably about 200, 150 grams. Normally it's about down there. Can you see what it's at?
Yep.
Yeah, it helps if you hold it up a bit. Now when that level just fills the little knob that you pull it out with, that's when you want to refill it.
Cool.
The last thing you want to do is deplete the cylinder, because what that will do is deplete the photoconductor unit. When you're ready to refill the cylinder, opposite the side that has the sticker that tells you what color it is, there's this flat portion here, and then this bar with the knob. So you just press in on that knob, and then slide the door open like so. And your printer will come with bottles that look just like this with the remaining toner. We don't ever put all of the toner into the cylinder, even if it is only 150 grams or so. That way you have some on the shelf. Because it does take 4 weeks to get it from Germany approximately, give or take. So it's good to have some as a backup. So when you want to refill the cylinder, you just cut off the top and squeeze it all in there. So before you put it back in, first thing you want to do is close that door, because you're going to want to dump all that toner back to the cap. And if you forget to close that door, then you make Ron real happy. Alright, and then each of these is keyed. So say you didn't have enough coffee one day, you couldn't put the cyan where the magenta goes, and vice versa. So they all have their own homes. And you just slide it in.
Snaps in place. Great.
Snaps in place, and you're ready to go.
Nice.
So the second component of the printer, we touched on briefly, but it's the developer. And all the developer is a mixture of iron and toner. And that's actually the vehicle for transferring the toner to the paper. So it works on electromagnetic charges similar to sticking your finger in a bag of flour, how the flour transfers to your finger. Same principles at work. But that's where you'll encounter those streaks inside the photoconductor unit. But again, that's where moisture will start to accumulate and you'll get those clumps of developer that form the streaks. Alright, so when you encounter that white line, looks just like this guy right here.
Yep.
So you'll print out a file that comes on your data disk. It's called the diagnostic chart. Looks just like this, 50% of all 4 colors. So you'll print this out and it'll tell you which color has the streak in it. So in this case we could see that it was the cyan photoconductor unit. To gain access to your PCUs, I need a better cart. Just open up on the side of the printer here. And then this lever you want to turn towards the ceiling and then pull back towards you. And inside here you'll see all 4 of the photoconductor units.
How about that?
So the toner gets fed down
Into each one of those.
each one of these, correct. So as these are printing out the toner is refilled from the cylinders, or the PCUs are refilled from the cylinders, but the iron stays inside. It doesn't get printed out.
Oh.
Because of those electromagnetic charges, it keeps the iron on one side and lets the toner come out the other. Yeah, you'll purchase those directly from Ricoh. And they will come with organic chemistry in them, so you have to empty that stuff out and then put the ceramic stuff in. The only photoconductor unit that's sort of locked into place is the black one. So you just want to flip up on that locking mechanism and then you can slide it out. The reason I put lock into quotation marks is because it's not really locking the photoconductor unit. What it's doing is positioning this unit here, which is the image transfer belt. So this guy wheels around and picks up each color separation and then applies it to the paper. Alright, so when you encounter one of those streaks and you determine which photoconductor unit has the streak, you just grab it by the handle here and then pull it straight out towards you. And whenever you're handling these, just avoid touching the green drum. Let me make sure this is getting some of this. If you do touch the green drum, some grease or dirt from your finger is liable to wind up on there, and it may stay on there. So it'll show up in all of your prints, which is a clever way of customizing your work, but probably undesirable.
Can you clean it off?
Yeah, they have microfiber kind of cloths that you can brush these off with. But if it's grease, then more than likely you won't be able to. You'll just create a smear along it. So it's best to wear gloves when you're handling the photoconductor unit at first, anyway.
Just white photo gloves?
Yeah. Nylon, neoprene, anything.
Any of those things can help.
Yeah. So to clear the streak, opposite the handle that you pull it out with, you've got these 2 gears here. The large gear will spin the photo drum, which you never really need to do unless you're looking for maybe a mark that's showing up in your prints. You can check the photo drums to see if it's on there. Never heard of anyone really doing that, but you can. It's this small gear that you want to focus on. So what that will spin is the magnetic drum inside the photoconductor unit that actually carries the developer mixture to the photo drum. So it's kind of difficult being left-handed sometimes. When you want to clear a streak, you just spin this gear clockwise, sort of hard and swiftly, like so. And what that's doing is removing the developer from the magnetic drum. And sometimes if you spin it hard enough, you can knock that clump free just by doing just by spinning it. But before you put it back in and start printing again, you want to spin it counterclockwise, smoothly and evenly and slowly, so that the developer mixture is replenished along that magnetic drum in a consistent manner. And then once you've done that, you can put it back into the machine, print the diagnostic chart, and see if you've cleared your streak. And when you're putting this back in, you just want to make sure you don't feel any resistance. It should slide nice and smoothly, and then lock into place. And when you button this back up, just be sure and lock the image transfer belt if you unlocked it. If not, and you try and close the door,
It won't close.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
so everything about the printer is really foolproof.
Mhm, mhm.
And again, these are keyed, so you couldn't put one where the other goes. And when closing these doors, just be sure and push on both sides where it says push. Lock it up, and then again, push on both sides.
Yes.
And you're good to go. But just like any other printer, eventually you'll get a paper jam. So you just want to open up the front here. There's levers on the right and on the left, but you only need to use the one. Your paper will be stuck somewhere inside there. So you just reach in and give it a good
Pull it
pull.
out?
Yeah, it may take a bit of force, but you can yank it out.
So some of the green, other ways of unlocking the pressure between the paper and the rollers or anything like that?
Yeah, if it's too difficult to pull out, what you can do is slide the fuser out. And what you'll need to do that is just lift up that guy there.
This one too?
Correct. And then you can grab these little rollies and just wiggle it out, and then you can pull your paper
Gotcha.
out. More often than not, that's not necessary on these littler printers, but you can do it if you need to. So if you do get a paper jam, most likely all the toner won't fuse to the paper, and you'll see some along the image transfer belt, which is that black reflective part right there. Or you'll see some half-fused toner flake off inside the machine, and it'll be here and there. Nothing to worry about. You don't need to spray it out. Just start printing again. It's a good idea to send a couple blank sheets through to clear up any residual toner that might be on the image transfer belt. But other than that, you don't need to do any cleaning procedures to remove the toner that doesn't fuse.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
We typically print from tray 1, which is this tray that you pull out right here. And the decal paper goes into tray 1 with the glossy side face up. And this is the opposing satin side, we'll say. I called it matte once, and the English professor said, "That's not matte, that's satin." Okay. So if you wanted to print from the bypass tray, the decal paper will go face down. And there's a sticker here and here just to remind you of that, the print's orientation. And if you're doing a custom paper size or a different paper size, you have to program it into the printer as well as the printer driver on the computer. When you want to switch the paper size, you just go to your menu here. The first option, well, the first option will be counter, which will tell you how many prints are on the printer, and that's important for determining what may be malfunctioning with the printer when that time comes. But the paper input, just click on that, press OK. Arrow down to, or I guess it's right there, paper size bypass tray. And then you arrow down, you have all these options.
Which you program in, right? Or these are standard sizes?
Correct, these are pre-programmed standard sizes. But if you keep going, you'll get to custom size.
Gotcha.
And there, you can program the width. You'll see it's got the minimum, which is 2 inches and 7/2 and just above a quarter, to 8.5. So that'd be your width. And then you've got 5 inches to 49.6 inches, which will be your length. So you just program those in, press OK. So this is the fuser right here.
You call it a fuser, got it.
Yeah. So the image transfer belt will apply the toner, and then it passes through the fuser, which then actually heats the paper.
It makes it stick, and that's why
Correct.
it's glossy.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
It's making a lot of sense now.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what will happen if you don't have the paper sizes matched,
Gotcha.
and it's not printing to thick 3. So what the thicknesses also will do will not only increase the fusing temperature, but it also slows the printer down so that the toner gets laid down more consistently. So if you print to, say, the plain recycled paper setting or whatever, it won't fuse, and it'll do that same thing where you just wipe your hand across and it just smears the whole thing. The bypass tray will print a thick 4 setting, which slows the printer down even more. So, so it's set to print a thick 4, so it'll slow down the printer even more and lay down the toner even more consistently. So if you encounter solid colors, it can be a problem. They can come out a bit cascading, and I like to call it like wipey.
That's because the paper is being bent?
No, it's because the printer's printing too fast, and the toner can't come out as fast as the printer wants it to, and so you'll get this cascading wipey effect with solid colors. But if you want to avoid that, you can try printing thick 4. You can add noise in Photoshop to break up the image a little bit, and then the printer will lay down color more consistently. But that's just something that is pretty distinct to the ceramic toners, is that inconsistent printing with solid colors.
Sure.
Alright, so one more thing about the printer itself, and then we'll move on to the more challenging way of clearing a streak. And that's the tech support. So there will be a sticker on this side of the printer right next to those venti kind of things on the door there. It will tell you what the printer's equipped with as far as the toner set, the number to call or how to go about placing supplies, and then the number to call for tech support. So it's a 3-tier tech support system. You always give us a call first if you encounter any problems or have any questions. If it's something that's more about the printer and less about the ceramics or the ceramic printing, if it's an error message, say, that we haven't encountered before, we'll direct you to the 1-800-RICO tech support number. So that would be the 2nd tier. And then if it's a mechanical issue that requires hands-on support, then they'll direct you to a RICO technician who will come out and service the printer.
Good.
Again, always give us a call first, and then we'll see if it's something we run into before, anything like that, and then go down the line from there.
Great.
So don't ever feel like you're just stuck with the problem. Always,
Great to know.
yeah, give us a ring. The process for ordering more consumables is there's an order form on the data disk you'll fill out, send that to Ron, and then he'll forward that off to MZ Toners, and then they'll directly ship you your order. So again, that can take up to 3 or 4 weeks just to get it from Germany. So if you can't clear the streak just by spinning this gear here, you'll actually need to get inside and with a piece of transparency paper or Mylar film, run it between the magnetic drum and the doctor blade, which keeps it consistent and smooth.
Should it be new?
Doesn't have to be new.
Okay.
It can be a little damaged, a little used, that's fine.
Okay.
So, again, you'll print the diagnostic chart, and don't be surprised if you see a streak that's something like that. It's actually a world record, I'm calling it.
Yeah.
It's a bit of felt that had broken off the
Sure.
photoconductor unit there. So you'll get a bunch of weird stuff that ends up in there over time, but nothing to worry about.
Sure.
Alright, so to get inside the photoconductor unit, we've got these 3 screws, one on the right, one on the left, and then one that holds the gear on. Just get those off. And the one that holds the gear on does take a little bit of torque. So you just want to grab that gear and get it.
Does that come off?
Yeah, you just pull it straight off. There you go. And then you can grab either side of this plastic bracket here and wiggle that guy off. And then I always like to put the gear in between the 2 halves, so that's easier to work on. And then inside there you'll see your magnetic drum here, and the developer that's on it. So when I spin this gear counterclockwise, It just kind of spins around.
So I can see something on the side. Is that what is that the image? Is that an example of that streak?
Yeah, this is probably caused by a low developer mixture. So this has been used for training and probably hasn't been.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of that is probably
So,
spilled out.
my question is, am I looking at that to figure out where the problem is?
You can. Sometimes you'll be able to see the streak. Sometimes you won't.
Okay.
So I never look for it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to get an idea of where it's at. And then when you use this Mylar film, just kind of run it along the magnetic drum there. And then it'll wedge between the doctor blade.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just go across the whole thing.
So basically it's kind of like a squeegee and you're just getting rid of whatever was stuck at that edge.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you'll do that a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll see if I
So any Mylar I would pick up in any bookstore would work?
Yeah, or Office Max or somewhere
So
like
any
that.
old Mylar sheet?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, should be fine.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't break off in there, that's what you want to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you'll see if I spin this clockwise, the developer gets removed. So that's how you can just spin that gear hard and knock that clump free.
Oh. So one it's going against that edge and the other is going through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if this is the cylinder, it's going like that versus like that,
Correct.
right? So you're actually shaving it off if you go counterclockwise?
Yep.
Yep.
Or clockwise. You'll be
Or shaving it off clockwise? Uh-huh.
And then counterclockwise puts it on.
Yeah, but when you're turning it that way, it's the opposite way inside.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. There's all those, the gears there.
Yeah. Gotcha.
All right.
Cool.
So,
That's easy enough.
yeah. It can take a few tries to get that clump free, so don't get discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
If you've tried this procedure and that line is still there, hasn't changed, hasn't moved, just looks the same,
Mhm.
it's probably a sign that the laser is dirty, and you'll need to have a tech come in and clean it. But that problem doesn't come up too often.
Okay.
All right. So now we can put it back together. And when you're putting this on, if you knock the bearing off, sometimes it happens, sometimes not. You don't need to remember anything about which way it was on. Just plop it back on there and then squeeze it into the housing or fitting.
Mm-hmm.
And this gear will only go on one way.
Mm-hmm.
So just figure out the little screws in. And you want to give that gear a grab and tighten it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're doing the right and left screws, just make sure they're snug, that you don't want to over tighten them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all ready to go. So over time, you'll start to see maybe one streak turn into two streaks, and then maybe even three.
So whatever caused the streak is sitting in the reservoir.
Correct, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to come up eventually.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So when you start to see the streaks come up with a fairly frequent occurrence,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll want to actually filter the developer mixture. So there are three reasons you would want to get the developer out of the photoconductor unit. The first would be that the photoconductor unit got damaged, either the photo drum or maybe it had been dropped and the gears got damaged. Either way, if the photo drum gets damaged, you want to recover the good ceramic developer, throw away the damaged drum and get a new one. And again, they will come with organic materials, so you'll have to empty that stuff out. Another reason is if the developer goes bad and the photo drum is still good, you'll want to empty out the developer and get new developer, put it back in. And then the third reason to empty the developer is to filter it. If you keep encountering streaks and you just want them gone, What you'll need is a screen that is 106 microns or 0.0041 inches. You see we ran some yellow through there recently. So when you're ready to filter the developer mixture, and the reason it goes bad is that those iron particles start out real lumpy and jagged, sort of like that. And they're larger than the toner particles, so as they touch the toner particles they can pick up a whole bunch of them. But over time, as the iron bumps up against the other iron particles, they start to smooth out, so they'll pick up less of that toner. And you may notice a drop in saturation or a drop in resolution. Your prints just don't look as nice as they used to. I always recommend, well, let me start it. We typically find that the developer will fail around 3,500 to 4,000 prints. So more often than not, it's at that higher end. And we've gotten 7,000, 10,000 prints out of a set of developers on these larger format printers. So it's not, if it's a fluke if it ever goes earlier than that,
Sure.
more often than not. So I always recommend, if the developer has run its life, to replace the PCU the same time you replace the developer. Not always possible because of finances or whatever, but it's always a good idea. So eventually, no matter what you do, because of the abrasiveness of the ceramic toners, you'll need to replace the photoconductor unit. But if the unit's still good, then you would want to empty out the bad developer, the developer that's old, and put in the new stuff.
Sure.
So if you're filtering it, what you'll want to do is you'll have your bottles. And always hang on to the bottles that come with your printer because they'll serve functions down the road. And then you'll need a funnel. So you just put your funnel on the bottle. And then with the photoconductor unit, this little guy is the hopper, and this is what mates to the toner pump inside the printer, and that's how the developer is replenished with toner. So to get this guy off, you just lift up, and then push it forward, and lift up again, and you may have to push and lift at the same time. Then you could back it out. And then inside there you'll see, as I spin this gear, you can see the,
Excuse me.
bless you. You can see the developer augering around in there.
Gotcha.
So it comes out just through that little opening there. And you just dump it into your bottle.
Oh.
And then once it stops, you'll spin the gear counterclockwise.
Or again.
Dump again, spin the gear, and dump and spin until nothing else comes
Gotcha.
out. Now it doesn't need to be pristine. You don't need to hit it with an air compressor or kill yourself trying to get everything out of the bottle or the photoconductor unit. The organic material will fire away in the kiln, and if it's ceramic, there's not enough of it in there to cause harm to the new developer you may be putting in.
So is there a different one for each cartridge? For each color? That's
Correct. So there'll
Different
be,
developer for each one?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you wanted to replace, if you had run the life of your developers and you wanted to replace the photoconductor units, it's about just under $2,000. 200 for the developer for each color, and then I guess it's only 90 for the photoconductor units, so it's about 18 somewhere in there, 16, 18.
Is that through you or through Redco?
Well, you would purchase the developer through us, which would be MZ Toners, and then the PCUs you would order from Rico. And then they would, again, come with the organic stuff, which you would just empty out.
So is the iron in all of them? Do they all have the iron?
Correct.
They all look black?
Yeah.
So somebody could easily mix these up?
Not that easy. You can still distinguish the differences, even though they're darker than you would expect. Like the yellow is probably the most misleading, I guess. So you can see it's darker, but you can still tell it's yellow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's the iron in there that's causing all the darkness.
So the developer and the toners are pigmented together.
Correct. All right, so once you get your developer out, you'll run it through your filter, and then when you're ready to put it back in, or puck it out, or whatever, get the new stuff, whatever the case may be. Once you're ready to fill it back up, you always want to give it a good shake, especially if it's new developer and it's separated, because the iron will separate from the toner. Always give it a good shake so it's properly mixed. Then again, it goes out the same way, or goes in the same way it came out. So you just squirt it in, and as you squirt, you'll want to spin this gear, otherwise it'll start to back up and eventually spill out onto your table.
Sure.
So just spin that gear as you fill it. Whoop. That's one thing you don't want to do too much of anyway.
It's expensive stuff, huh?
Yeah. But it happens, it's not a clean process.
So what would be the expected replacement of developer and toner? I mean, typically, if a person is doing a lot of photos of people, what's going to run out first, second,
Toner.
third? Toner?
Toner, and then...
Because toner's used no matter how much pigment's going down. Is that the reason?
Correct.
Is that the reason?
Oh yeah. So the toner is printing out of the developer, and the developer is replenished with toner from the toner cylinders. So as it prints, it keeps getting that toner fed into it. So you're going to run out of that toner before developer, because the developer's not really going anywhere. It just, over time, that print life, the 4,000 prints or so, that iron will smooth out and your prints won't look as nice. So you put this hopper back on.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yours will come with 2 prongs.
Is that right? Because you broke one off?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you want to make sure those prongs go in first. And you kind of want to dig into it at an angle. Yeah, just like that. Push down and push back.
And this one?
Correct.